Hello, my name is Joel Kelton, and I'm Commissioner of Precinct 2 now. And I've been a resident of Precinct 2 most all my life. I was raised and I went to school there. I worked there. I had a business there, machine shop. Worked on cars, classic cars. Now we do machine work, CNC lathe work and all. But I've always been very interested in the present and the future and welfare of our area out there, where I've lived in that area of Precinct 2 all my life. And about their families too. And I've always been a part of serving the community. I've served 9 years for the fire department out there as chief. I've served 10 years on our local school board. I still help the school out there. A lot of volunteer. Sometimes I go around and take a skid loader or track hoe, my own personal one, where I help them do work, clean up, stuff like that. So I've always been a part of our area and our community work out there, and been interested in that. I also help take care of our local water system out there. And I've always done my best to bring a common sense approach to county government, anything we do, and to be fair and to be honest. And I'd like to continue to be your commissioner for Precinct 2 in Brown County as a whole, and do what I can for you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lord?
Yes, my name is Eddie Lord, and I'm running for County Commissioner in Precinct 2. I've been married to my wife, Katie Lord, for over 20 years. She's here with me today for my support. We have 3 daughters. I grew up in Richland Springs, and I moved up here. I actually lived here in Brownwood 1 year and went to school here, and then moved back to San Saba County again. And then I learned how to farm and ranch there, and then later I moved back up to Brown County and well over to the oil fields, and that's where I started my business. I've gained much knowledge and experience from owning my own oil and gas company. I've lived here for about 30 years, plus years. The reason for my running was the fact that back in 2016, where we used the road, County Road 477, it was washed out, and it took over a year and a half to get that repaired, but inconvenienced a lot of people, and it didn't get fixed till after a criminal activity had taken place. After this was brought to my attention, I decided to run for the office of County Commissioner. I visited with several people at Lake Brownwood to see their needs of the roads, everything from roads to water issues. And I know that as commissioner, I would be working with many people like that to see their needs and that their needs are met, their safety is met. We'd also be working with the Sheriff's Department to help ensure the safety of those people and to better the roads of our community through the Commissioner's Court. Like I say, I'm Eddie Lord, and I'd like to be your commissioner.
Mr. Kelton, what do you see as one major issue facing the Commissioner's Court?
Budget is always our major issue, and it's always a challenge every year. We try our best to keep that tax rate as low as we can. And there's always things that drive that. Right now, the one thing that's growing out of control we looked at this year is child court, CPS court, and indigent defense. We pay for a lot of lawyers on that, sometimes 3 or so lawyers on a case like that, and it's the one that's growing out of control. I spoke with Judge Ellis shortly after budget this year about what to do about that, and we had some discussion. We had a meeting later that he set up right toward the end of the year with Judge Mabee, I believe is the correct name for it. They were discussing ways maybe do a contract way to do that, or maybe do some flat fees on some deals there. So we're trying to look at ways to bring that in. But I mean, budget's always, to me, is our biggest battle every year.
Thank you. Mr. Lord?
I believe also the budget will be the biggest thing that we have to get to. The indigent health care is the way I've understood it, is a big part of that. Funding everything that comes up will be a major deal for the budget, and I feel that that's what will be my biggest challenge.
Thank you. Mr. Kelton, what do you see as the major needs for Precinct 2?
Precinct 2, probably our major problem is trying to keep up with our paved roads or repairing those old paved roads. We have crumbling older infrastructure. Some of those roads are paved probably when I was a kid, and they've not been touched since. And I probably got a little over $300,000 in my road fund right now, and got to pay 12 miles. And we have 100 miles of paved road and 100 miles of gravel road in each precinct. So that's always a challenge. We're trying to get ahead of that curve, get some of the stuff we have, fix some of the worst first, and get it done. So paving will always be an issue as long as I can see in the future. We are working to try to get ahead of the curve. We've got some stuff done that hasn't been done in years. We had a lot of, of course, we had some bridge washouts and stuff we've been dealing with FEMA. We finally got to go ahead and we are working on finishing up our FEMA projects, but those are pretty major. This one, the one on County Road 477 would have been, we get 75% payback on 139,000 max repair on it. We had to wait and jump through all their hoops and all to get that done. It'll be a concrete low water crossing. It shouldn't wash out anymore after it's done.
Thank you. Mr. Lord, same question.
I think it is the road quality, and that is right about all the paved roads. There's potholes, they're beginning to crumble and stuff. I know there's going to be limited funds, but we will have to find and figure out ways to fix those. Some of the roads, like on 477, it's so washboard you can't hardly drive down it, and for if you're pulling something and it begins to jerk around and something.
You have 30 more seconds.
Okay. And anyway, it's very hard to drive on, and I think that would be the first thing that I would have to approach, would be getting all the roads straightened up. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kelton, what is it that makes you a better choice for County Commissioner than your opponent?
Well, I would hope to be my experience. I've worked like many years in dealing with people in open business and public finance, school board, working with budgets, tax rates. I mean, it's I've done there, been there, done that, and know the results of that. I try to bring a common sense approach to that. I try to always be honest and fair about things, and I'm always available to people when they want to talk to me. And I try to have I wear my phone all the time, and if I have instructions in my office, somebody trying to get hold of me, give them my cell phone number. I don't have anybody screening my calls. Somebody wants to talk to me, they talk to me. So I'm available. I'm there if you need me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lord?
I'd have an open door policy, try to listen to everybody, always to be able to get back with them to see what their need, whenever they ask a question, make sure through either the internet or give them my phone number. As I go out and talk to people, I try to listen to them. I also try to use my common sense to evaluate what their needs really are and how to fix the problems that they're needing.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kelton, tell us about a time you went against your colleagues and made an unpopular decision.
Which one? I thought like the biggest one is probably going to be, recently, is going to be like the McKinstry project.
So if you want the extra 30 seconds now, go for it.
Well, I'll do. But anyway, it was a large deal. Energy audit people came in, and they were going to do a bunch of work that we going to pay for itself. But my thing was we could have done it ourselves for less money, done it locally, and done all that. But then came the building project for the treasurers and election office over there. 300 and I forget what it was, dollars a square foot. That's no sidewalks, no paving, no parking lot, and no bid. And I argued that point about there, no bid, and it went nowhere. And I think we overpaid for that. We didn't get good work. In the long run, we had problems. I may have got most of the things ironed out. It was probably one of my biggest ones, I guess. And I went home that evening after one of those votes. I remember I was pretty down. I thought, I guess I'm just out of touch. But I started getting phone calls, people saying, I thank you for your vote. So I always try to vote my conscience, and it does go against the grain sometimes. And I'm not there to be against the grain, but I will vote my conscience, and that's what happens sometimes. And if I wanted to, I'm not going to apologize for that, but that's what I'm up there to do, is vote your conscience. So we don't always agree, but most of the time we do agree. Most of our stuff's cut and dried, pretty easy decisions, but there are some big decisions that we don't agree on. So I'll leave it at that. I could list some other ones here, but we don't have time to get into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lord, when was the time that you went against your colleagues and made an unpopular decision?
Just recently, I have 2 business partners that I deal with in oil and gas, and I had to go against what they had sent me out to do to a well out in West Texas that I was working on, and finally got one of the guys to agree that I was in the right. So whenever I finished the project, it ended up making at least triple what we had even anticipated it to do.
Mr. Kelton and Mr. Lord, you're going to have 2 different questions, and these are both from the audience. Mr. Kelton, how much does it cost to pave 1 mile of road?
1 mile of road, if you already had the base and everything prepped, just to put it down, is right at $25,000 a mile right now. So for an 18-foot wide, one shot of rock and asphalt.
All right.
That,
That's what it asked, was how much does it cost to pave 1 mile of road? All right, Mr. Lord, what is your position on keeping Lake Brownwood clean for our community water supply as well as recreational use?
I think it's probably the most important part of Brown County. All of our water comes from there. As far as recreation use, you have, or I've heard from some of the people that there may be some problems with things that are being put into the water out there, or some of the septic systems that are around the lake, and that will affect in the long term all of Brown County through our water systems.
Mr. Kelton, how do you represent your constituents? In other words, how do you relate to and represent the needs of your precinct?
well, I actually am I'm a constituent, people I work with, I deal with every day, and we are all one and the same. And I visit with people, I know people, we have discussions about different matters. I'm available on the phone. Like I said, I've worked and run business out there. I drive on the same roads. I pay taxes. I support them by being one of them, and I'm not separated from them in any way. I have to work. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. So I understand what it takes to work and live out there. And I basically, I feel your pain because I'm in the same position you are. So always been available to talk to you and answer your questions, and that's all I can tell you about that.
Thank you. Mr. Lord, if elected, how would you relate to and represent the needs of your precinct?
Read the question again.
If elected, how would you relate to and represent the needs of your precinct?
Well, I would like to represent them on whatever they asked, that I would be able to go and see their needs and make sure whatever entity I had to go to fulfill what needs to help them accomplish that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kelton, Mr. Lord, to take 1 minute to convince everybody in this room why they should vote for you.
I've served quite a few years dealing with budgets and tax rates in different schools in the county too. And anyone who pays attention will know that I'm a hard-nosed conservative when budget time and tax rate setting comes around. I'm pretty tight, I've heard. Anyway, I've got a good knowledge of equipment need. Yeah, there's something else coming. And we get things done out in precinct too. We take care of our equipment. We make the best use of what we can of our resources out there. I carry my phone with me all the time. If someone calls the office or looking for me, they give me my phone or they call me. So I'm accessible. No one screams my call. They said I'll call back. If I don't, so we do have a little limited phone service out there in Florida County. But I feel like I've done a good job, and I'd like to continue to do a good job for your precinct too. And like I said, I do have experience and like I said, I think the budget's one of the biggest things, and I do have experience there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lord?
Yes, I'd like to serve Brown County, or Precinct 2 in Brown County, mainly to see over the roads And whenever I really started this, I really thought that all it was about was the roads. After I attended some of the meetings and stuff, I found out that there's a lot more to it. But then after I visited to a lot of people see their needs, there is a lot of needs out there. Most of it is in road conditions. Whenever they take some of the stuff and put on the roads or shred along the side of the roads, they've not cleaned up behind themselves. That's something that I will always make sure that is done, and to make sure on the tax dollars that they are spent in the right places, because I am a taxpayer also. I will always be there and someone to be able to get a hold of me, and I'll take care of the business at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.